You are listening to an extended audio preview of Pop Culture and Chaos Magick, written by Adam Lusum and published by LLH Media. The complete book is available from LLH Media and selected online retailers. Chapter 1: Introduction to Chaos Magick. Chaos Magick is a contemporary form of magic that stands apart from traditional occult systems in both philosophy and practice. To understand Chaos Magick, it is essential to first grasp what magic itself is and how chaos magicians have redefined its boundaries. Magic, as defined by the 20th century magician Aleister Crowley, is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. This definition is broad, encompassing everything from ritual and spell work to the simple act of making a decision. Yet, chaos magicians have taken this foundational concept and pushed it even further, emphasizing personal experience, adaptability, and the pragmatic pursuit of results. The roots of chaos magic can be traced to the late 20th century, particularly to the 1970s and 1980s in England. During this period, a new wave of magicians began to question the rigid structures and dogmas of established systems, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Thelema, and Wicca. These systems, while powerful and influential, often required years of study, adherence to complex hierarchies, and unwavering faith in specific mythologies. Chaos magicians, influenced by the cultural shifts of the era and the rise of postmodern thought, rejected the notion that magic must be bound by tradition or fixed belief. Instead, they proposed a radical idea: belief itself is a tool, and the effectiveness of magic depends less on the objective truth of a system and more on the magician's ability to manipulate belief, intent, and symbolic language. At the heart of chaos magic is the concept of paradigm shifting. A paradigm, in this context, is a framework of beliefs, symbols, and practices that shape how one understands and interacts with the world. Chaos magicians argue that no single paradigm holds absolute truth. Rather, all paradigms are provisional, temporary constructs that can be adopted, modified, or discarded as needed. This approach allows practitioners to borrow, remix, and invent rituals and symbols from any source, ancient, modern, sacred, or profane. In the hands of a chaos magician, the trappings of high ceremonial magic, the sigils of ancient grimoires, the imagery of comic books, or even the slogans of advertising can all serve as potent tools for transformation. Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin are often credited as the founders of Chaos Magick. Both were active in the British occult scene in the late 1970s and early 1980s, and their writings, particularly Carroll's Liber Null and Psychonaut and Sherwin's The Book of Results, laid the groundwork for the movement. Carroll's work, in particular, articulated the core tenets of chaos magic: the primacy of intent, the fluidity of belief, and the utility of symbolism. Carroll introduced the concept of the magical paradigm and emphasized that magicians should be willing to adopt and discard beliefs as easily as one changes clothes, depending on what is most effective for the task at hand. A defining feature of chaos magic is its pragmatic, results-oriented ethos. Traditional systems often place great emphasis on lineage, initiation, and adherence to established rituals and correspondences. In contrast, chaos magicians are encouraged to experiment, innovate, and judge their success by the tangible effects they produce in their lives. This experimental attitude is reminiscent of the scientific method. Hypotheses are formed, techniques are tested, and results are evaluated. If a ritual or symbol works, if it produces the desired change, then it is useful, regardless of its origin or the beliefs traditionally associated with it. If it does not work, it is discarded or modified. Another key principle is the use of altered states of consciousness, often referred to as gnosis. Chaos magicians believe that the conscious mind, with its constant chatter and skepticism, can impede the direct transmission of intent into the deeper layers of reality. By entering states of gnosis, through meditation, trance, drumming, dance, sexual ecstasy, or even intense emotion, the magician bypasses the conscious mind and implants their will more directly into the fabric of existence. The specific method used to achieve gnosis is less important than the altered state itself. Different practitioners may favor different techniques, and chaos magicians are encouraged to find what works best for them. Sigilization is perhaps the most famous technique associated with chaos magic. developed and popularized by Austin Osman Spare, an early 20th century artist and magician who is a kind of spiritual forebear to chaos magicians. Sigilization involves creating a symbolic representation of a desire or intent, charging it with energy, and then forgetting its meaning so that it can work on the subconscious level. The process is simple. Write out a statement of intent, remove repeated letters, arrange the remaining letters into a unique glyph, and then focus all one's attention on this symbol during a moment of gnosis. Once the sigil is charged, the practitioner moves on, ideally forgetting the original intent so that the subconscious can work unimpeded. This approach is emblematic of Chaos Magick's focus on personal empowerment, creativity, and psychological insight. The history of Chaos Magick is deeply intertwined with broader cultural currents. The late 20th century was a period of rapid social, technological, and philosophical change. The rigid certainties of the post-war era gave way to the relativism and skepticism of postmodernism, which questioned the very foundations of truth, meaning, and identity. In this climate, chaos magicians found inspiration in the idea that reality is not fixed, but is, to some extent, constructed by perception, language, and belief. The rise of cyberpunk literature, punk music, and the do-it-yourself ethos of underground culture all contributed to the formation of Chaos Magick's iconoclastic spirit. This spirit is evident in the movement's embrace of pop culture as a source of magical symbolism. Where traditional magicians might invoke ancient gods or recite passages from sacred texts, chaos magicians are just as likely to draw upon the imagery of comic books, science fiction, or advertising. If symbols derive their power from the emotional and psychological responses they evoke, then the symbols of contemporary culture, Batman, Darth Vader, the Nike swoosh, can be just as effective as those of ancient Egypt or Greece. This willingness to appropriate and repurpose the detritus of mass culture is not mere novelty. It is a recognition that magic must speak to the world in which it is practiced. Despite its anarchic reputation, Chaos Magick is not without structure or discipline. The freedom to invent and experiment does not absolve practitioners from the need for rigor, self-honesty, and critical reflection. Indeed, chaos magicians often emphasize the importance of record-keeping, journaling, and self-examination. By documenting their experiments, practitioners can identify what works, what does not, and how their own biases and assumptions shape their magical practice. This methodological skepticism is one of Chaos Magick's greatest strengths, allowing it to evolve and adapt in response to new ideas and challenges. It is important to note that Chaos Magick is not nihilism. While it rejects the idea of absolute truths or fixed dogmas, it does not claim that nothing is real or that nothing matters. Rather, it posits that meaning is created, not discovered, and that the magician has the power and the responsibility to shape their own reality. In this sense, Chaos Magick is both liberating and demanding. It offers the freedom to choose one's own path, but it also places the burden of creativity and discernment squarely on the individual. The influence of Chaos Magick has spread far beyond the small circles of occultists who first articulated its principles. Its ideas have permeated popular culture, internet subcultures, and even mainstream discussions of psychology and self-help. The language of paradigm shifting, belief as a tool, and reality hacking can be found in fields as diverse as cognitive science, marketing, and political activism. This diffusion is a testament to Chaos Magick's adaptability and its resonance with the uncertainties and opportunities of contemporary life. To better understand Chaos Magick, it is useful to explore its relationship with other forms of magic and spirituality. Traditional ceremonial magic, as practiced by groups like the Golden Dawn or the Ordo Templi Orientis, is characterized by elaborate rituals, complex symbolism, and a hierarchical structure. Practitioners are often initiated into secret knowledge, and the proper performance of rituals is believed to be essential for success. In contrast, chaos magicians view rituals as psychological tools rather than cosmic necessities. The precise wording, gestures, or symbols used are less important than the intent and focus of the practitioner. A chaos magician might perform a ritual in Latin one day, recite lines from a movie the next, and invent a new language the day after, all in pursuit of the same goal, to alter consciousness and effect change. Similarly, Chaos Magick differs from religious forms of spirituality, which often emphasize faith in a transcendent power, adherence to moral codes, and communal worship. Chaos magicians may work with deities, spirits, or archetypes, but they do so with the understanding that these entities are, at least in part, constructs of the mind, useful models, rather than immutable realities. This does not mean that such experiences are just imagination, in a dismissive sense. Rather, chaos magicians recognize that the boundaries between imagination, perception, and reality are fluid and negotiable. The psychological dimensions of chaos magic are significant. Many practitioners view magic as a form of applied psychology and altered states to reprogram the subconscious mind. Techniques such as sigilization, affirmation, and visualization are understood as ways to bypass habitual thought patterns and install new beliefs or behaviors. This perspective draws on the work of psychologists like Carl Jung, who explored the power of archetypes and the collective unconscious, as well as more recent developments in cognitive science and neuroplasticity. Yet, chaos magic is not reducible to psychology alone. While it makes use of psychological insights, it also operates on the assumption that consciousness and reality are intertwined in ways that are not fully understood. Many chaos magicians report experiences that defy conventional explanation: synchronicities, precognition, encounters with non-ordinary realities. Whether these are interpreted as psychological phenomena, evidence of hidden dimensions, or something else entirely, is left to the individual. The point is not to arrive at a definitive explanation, but to remain open to possibility and to judge practices by their effects. This openness extends to ethics and morality. Chaos magicians reject the notion of universal moral laws handed down by tradition or authority. Instead, they are encouraged to develop their own ethical frameworks, guided by personal values, empathy, and the recognition of interdependence. This can be a daunting responsibility, as it requires ongoing reflection and a willingness to confront one's own motives and consequences. Some chaos magicians adopt the principle of "do what thou wilt" from Thelema, tempered by the caveat that true will must be discovered through self-knowledge and should not harm others unnecessarily. The practical tools of chaos magic are as diverse as its practitioners. In addition to sigilization and gnosis, chaos magicians make use of meditation, pathworking, servitor creation, divination, and a host of other techniques. Servitors, for example, are artificial entities created by the magician to perform specific tasks. These constructs are programmed with intent, given form through visualization or artistic representation, and then sent out to accomplish their mission. Like all chaos magic techniques, servitor creation is flexible, and practitioners are encouraged to develop their own methods and models. Divination, too, is approached in a pragmatic fashion. Chaos magicians may use tarot cards, runes, the I Ching, or even coin flips, not because they believe in a fixed destiny, but as tools for accessing intuition, generating new perspectives, or breaking habitual patterns of thought. The randomness of divination can serve as a catalyst for insight, allowing the unconscious to communicate in symbolic language. The role of humor and playfulness should not be underestimated in chaos magic. Many practitioners delight in the absurdity and creativity of their practice, using parody, satire, and irony as magical tools. This irreverent attitude serves as a safeguard against dogmatism and self-importance, reminding magicians not to take themselves or their beliefs too seriously. The willingness to laugh at oneself and at the cosmic joke is, in many ways, a hallmark of the chaos magic mindset. The relationship between chaos magic and pop culture is particularly relevant in the contemporary era. As the boundaries between high and low culture dissolve, and as media and technology become ever more pervasive, the symbols and narratives of pop culture have become potent sources of magical power. Characters, logos, memes, and even internet slang can be incorporated into rituals, sigils, and meditations. This is not merely a gimmick. It reflects the recognition that the collective imagination is shaped by the stories and images that saturate our daily lives. By reclaiming and repurposing these symbols, chaos magicians assert their agency in a world awash in information and manipulation. The adaptability of chaos magic makes it uniquely suited to the challenges and opportunities of the modern world. In an era marked by uncertainty, complexity, and rapid change, the ability to shift paradigms, experiment with new models, and remain open to possibility is invaluable. Chaos magicians are not content to be passive consumers of reality. They seek to be active creators, shaping their own destinies, and by extension, the world around them. Critics of chaos magic sometimes accuse it of being shallow, self-indulgent, or lacking in substance. It is true that the freedom and eclecticism of chaos magic can be misused or misunderstood. Without a foundation of discipline, self-awareness, and critical thinking, the practice can devolve into mere novelty or escapism. However, at its best, chaos magic is a powerful system for personal and collective transformation, grounded in the recognition that reality is, to some extent, negotiable. The influence of chaos magic can be seen in a wide range of fields, from art and literature to technology and activism. Its emphasis on creativity, experimentation, and paradigm shifting resonates with the hacker ethos, the avant-garde, and the counterculture. The language of hacking reality, mind viruses, and mimetic engineering owes much to chaos magic's playful, subversive spirit. In this sense, chaos magic is not just a set of techniques but a way of engaging with the world, a philosophy of action, imagination, and transformation. For those new to chaos magic, the prospect of embarking on this path can be both exciting and intimidating. The absence of fixed rules or authorities means that each practitioner must take responsibility for their own learning, experimentation, and growth. There are no gurus, no sacred texts, and no final answers, only provisional models, evolving practices, and the ongoing adventure of discovery. The foundational texts of chaos magic, Carroll's Liber Null and Psychonaut, Sherwin's The Book of Results, Phil Hines' Condensed Chaos and Prime Chaos, offer guidance, inspiration, and practical techniques, but they are not dogmas to be followed blindly. Instead, they invite the reader to question, experiment, and find their own way. The internet, with its proliferation of forums, blogs, and digital grimoires, has further democratized access to magical knowledge, allowing practitioners to share experiences, debate ideas, and collaborate on new experiments. At its core, chaos magic is a celebration of human creativity, adaptability, and the power of belief. It challenges the practitioner to become both artist and scientist, mythmaker and skeptic, explorer and architect of their own reality. In a world where meaning is increasingly fragmented and contested, chaos magic offers a toolkit for constructing personal and collective narratives, for reclaiming agency, and for engaging with the mysteries of existence on one's own terms. As we delve deeper into the relationship between chaos magic and pop culture in the chapters to come, it is important to keep these foundational principles in mind. Chaos magic is not a rejection of tradition for its own sake, nor is it an embrace of chaos in the sense of disorder or anarchy. Rather, it is a recognition that the world is more malleable, more mysterious, and more open to creative intervention than we have been led to believe. By learning to navigate and shape the shifting currents of belief, symbol, and intent, chaos magicians become active participants in the ongoing creation of reality. The journey into chaos magic is ultimately a journey into oneself. It is an invitation to question assumptions, to experiment with new ways of seeing and being, and to take responsibility for the stories we tell about ourselves and the world. In this sense, chaos magic is both deeply personal and profoundly collective, for as we change ourselves, we inevitably change the world around us. The chapters that follow will explore how pop culture has become a fertile ground for magical practice, how the symbols and narratives of our time can be harnessed for personal transformation, and how chaos magicians are redefining what it means to be a magician in the 21st century. But before embarking on these explorations, it is worth pausing to reflect on the spirit of chaos magic, a spirit of curiosity, playfulness, skepticism, and creative engagement with the mysteries of existence. In an age of uncertainty, chaos magic offers not certainty, but possibility, not dogma, but freedom, not answers, but the tools to ask better questions. In conclusion, chaos magic is a living, evolving tradition that invites each practitioner to become an active participant in the creation of meaning and reality. Its history is one of rebellion, innovation, and adaptation, shaped by the currents of culture, philosophy, and personal experience. Its core principles, paradigm shifting, belief as a tool, the primacy of intent, and the utility of symbolism, offer a flexible framework for exploring the mysteries of consciousness and the possibilities of transformation. Whether one approaches chaos magic as a spiritual path, a psychological technique, or a form of artistic expression, it remains a potent invitation to engage with the world in new and imaginative ways. The adventure of chaos magic begins with a single question: what if reality is more flexible than we think? The answer, as chaos magicians have discovered, is limited only by our imagination, our will, and our willingness to experiment. As we turn the page to explore the intersection of pop culture and chaos magic, we do so with the understanding that the boundaries between the magical and the mundane, the sacred and the profane, are not fixed, but fluid, awaiting the creative intervention of those bold enough to play with the possibilities. Chapter 2. The Evolution of Pop Culture. Pop culture, short for popular culture, is a term that has come to define the ideas, practices, images, and artifacts that pervade everyday life and capture the collective imagination of societies. While elements of popular culture have always existed, think of folk songs, fairy tales, and urban legends, the concept as we understand it today emerged in the crucible of the 20th century. The extraordinary acceleration of technological, social, and economic change during this era transformed the way people consumed, created, and shared culture. To understand how pop culture evolved from the early 20th century to the present, it is necessary to trace its journey through the shifting landscapes of media, identity, and global connectivity. At the dawn of the 20th century, culture was largely local and hierarchical. High culture, classical music, fine art, literature, and theater, stood apart from the amusements of the masses, which were often considered lowbrow or vulgar. Yet the forces of industrialization and urbanization were already setting the stage for a new, more democratized cultural order. As people flocked to cities and new forms of leisure emerged, the appetite for accessible entertainment grew. The rise of mass media, newspapers, magazines, radio, and eventually film, created new channels for disseminating ideas and images on an unprecedented scale. These media did not merely report on culture, they became engines of cultural production, shaping tastes and trends while blurring the boundaries between elite and popular forms. The 1920s, often called the Roaring Twenties, marked a turning point. Jazz music, born from African American communities, exploded into a national phenomenon. The silent film era gave way to talkies, and Hollywood began its ascent as the world's movie capital. Radio brought news, music, and serialized dramas directly into people's homes, fostering a sense of shared experience that transcended regional and class divisions. Advertising became a powerful force, not only selling products, but also constructing ideals of beauty, success, and happiness. The result was a new kind of culture, fast-moving, media-driven, and oriented toward novelty and pleasure. The Great Depression and World War II might have dampened the exuberance of the 1920s, but they did not halt the momentum of pop culture. If anything, the hardships of the 1930s and 1940s made escapism all the more attractive. Hollywood musicals, screwball comedies, and superhero comic books provided relief from economic and political anxieties. At the same time, the war effort mobilized the power of media for propaganda, rallying citizens around shared symbols and narratives. The post-war era saw a dramatic expansion of consumer culture. Television, which had been in its infancy before the war, quickly became a centerpiece of family life. The 1950s are often remembered as a time of conformity, but this was also the decade that gave birth to rock and roll, teen culture, and the first stirrings of rebellion against the status quo. Rock and roll was more than just a new musical style, it was a cultural revolution. Drawing on rhythm and blues, country and gospel, artists like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard electrified young audiences and scandalized their elders. The music's raw energy, suggestive lyrics, and racial hybridity challenged social norms and helped lay the groundwork for the civil rights movement. The rise of the teenager as a distinct social category was both a product and a driver of these changes. With disposable income and unprecedented autonomy, young people became tastemakers, fueling the rapid turnover of fads in fashion, music, and slang. The 1960s and 1970s were decades of upheaval and experimentation. The counterculture movement centered around opposition to the Vietnam War, civil rights, and new forms of spiritual and sexual liberation found its voice in pop culture. The Beatles, Bob Dylan, and Jimi Hendrix provided the soundtrack to a generation's quest for meaning and self-expression. Psychedelic art, underground comics, and avant-garde cinema pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable or meaningful. Television, meanwhile, became more daring, tackling issues like race, gender, and war in shows such as All in the Family and MASH. The era also witnessed the birth of the modern blockbuster, with films like Jaws and Star Wars signaling a shift towards spectacle and mass appeal. By the 1980s, pop culture had become a global phenomenon. Satellite television, home video, and the proliferation of cable channels like MTV transformed the way audiences consumed media. Music videos turned pop stars into visual icons, and the fusion of music, fashion, and image became central to the industry. Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Prince were not just musicians, but multimedia personalities whose every move was scrutinized and emulated. The rise of the personal computer and video games introduced new forms of interactivity, foreshadowing the digital revolution to come. The late 20th century was also marked by the commodification and fragmentation of pop culture. As brands and corporations recognized the power of cultural capital, they invested heavily in marketing and sponsorships. The line between content and advertising blurred, and pop culture became a marketplace of images and experiences. At the same time, the explosion of media outlets allowed for greater diversity and niche interests. Hip-hop, born in the Bronx, grew into a global movement, influencing language, fashion, and politics. Subcultures like punk, goth, and rave offered alternative identities and modes of expression, often in tension with mainstream trends. The advent of the internet in the 1990s accelerated these processes and introduced new dynamics. The web democratized cultural production, enabling anyone with a computer and a connection to share their creations with the world. Websites, blogs, and forums fostered new communities around shared interests, from fan fiction to memes to conspiracy theories. The concept of the prosumer, a hybrid of producer and consumer, became increasingly relevant as people remixed, parodied, and repurposed cultural material. Viral phenomena like the hamster dance or the Star Wars kid demonstrated the unpredictable participatory nature of online culture. Social media platforms such as MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube further transformed the landscape in the 2000s. These sites enabled unprecedented forms of self-expression, networking, and cultural exchange. Suddenly, anyone could become a content creator, influencer, or micro-celebrity. The boundaries between private and public, amateur and professional, blurred even further. Pop culture became more immediate, interactive, and personalized. The rise of reality television and talent shows like American Idol reflected and reinforced this ethos, celebrating ordinary people who achieved extraordinary fame, however fleeting. The global reach of pop culture has only intensified in the 21st century. Korean pop music, K-pop, Japanese anime, and Bollywood films have found enthusiastic audiences far beyond their countries of origin. Streaming services like Netflix, Spotify, and TikTok have made it possible to access an almost infinite variety of content on demand, anytime, anywhere. Algorithms curate and personalize cultural experiences, shaping our tastes in subtle but powerful ways. The result is both an unprecedented abundance of choice and a new kind of fragmentation, as people are increasingly able to inhabit their own cultural bubbles. Yet even as pop culture becomes more diverse and decentralized, it retains its power to create common ground. Shared references, from Marvel superheroes to viral dances to catchphrases from television, continue to provide a sense of belonging and identity. The ability of pop culture to comment on, critique, and even shape social and political realities has never been greater. Movements like #MeToo and Black Lives Matter have harnessed the power of social media and celebrity to drive change and amplify marginalized voices. To trace the evolution of pop culture is to witness a story of continual transformation and adaptation. Each technological shift, from radio to television to the internet and beyond, has created new possibilities for expression, connection, and meaning. The democratization of culture, while uneven and contested, has allowed more people than ever to participate in the creation and interpretation of the symbols that define our collective life. At the same time, the commodification and commercialization of culture have raised important questions about authenticity, agency, and power. One of the most striking features of modern pop culture is its capacity for self-reference and irony. As audiences have become more media savvy, creators have responded with works that play with genre conventions, subvert expectations, and comment on their own artifice. From The Simpsons to Community to TikTok memes, Much of contemporary pop culture delights in blurring the line between sincerity and parody. This reflexivity is both a product of and a response to the saturation of media in daily life. When everything is a reference, meaning becomes both richer and more elusive. Another key trend is the increasing importance of fandom. In the past, fans were often dismissed as obsessive or marginal, but today they are recognized as active participants in the cultural ecosystem. Online communities organize conventions, produce fan art and fiction, and even influence the direction of major franchises. The relationship between creators and audiences has become more collaborative and contentious, as seen in campaigns to save canceled shows or demand greater representation. Fandom is both a source of joy and a site of struggle over meaning, ownership, and identity. The evolution of pop culture is also a story of appropriation and hybridity. From jazz to hip-hop to anime-inspired fashion, the most innovative and influential forms have often emerged from the blending of different traditions, styles, and influences. This process can be a source of creativity and connection, but it also raises questions about exploitation, respect, and cultural ownership. Debates over cultural appropriation reflect deeper anxieties about power, history, and authenticity in an increasingly interconnected world. The global nature of contemporary pop culture has created new opportunities and challenges. On one hand, it allows for the celebration of diversity and the sharing of stories across borders. On the other, it can lead to homogenization as dominant trends and aesthetics spread rapidly and overshadow local traditions. The tension between the global and the local is a defining feature of the current era, shaping everything from music to fashion to food. Technology continues to be a driving force in the evolution of pop culture. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence are opening up new frontiers for creativity and immersion. The rise of influencers and micro-celebrities powered by social media has transformed the nature of fame and authority. The boundaries between creator and audience, fiction and reality, original and copy, are more porous than ever. Yet for all its novelty and speed, the evolution of pop culture is rooted in enduring human desires, the need for connection, expression, and meaning. Whether through a catchy song, a viral meme, or a blockbuster film, pop culture provides a language for making sense of the world and our place in it. It is a mirror, a playground, and sometimes a battleground, a space where identities are forged, challenged, and celebrated. In the context of Chaos Magick, the evolution of pop culture takes on a special significance. Chaos magicians have long recognized the power of symbols, stories, and collective imagination. The fluid, participatory, and self-aware nature of contemporary pop culture makes it a fertile ground for magical experimentation. Memes, avatars, and fictional universes become tools for personal transformation and collective action. The boundaries between fantasy and reality, art and ritual, are increasingly blurred, inviting new forms of engagement with the mysteries of existence. As we look to the future, it is clear that pop culture will continue to evolve in ways that are both unpredictable and transformative. The rapid pace of technological innovation, the ongoing struggles for justice and representation, and the creative energies of millions of people around the world will ensure that the story of pop culture remains dynamic and compelling. Whether as a source of inspiration, a site of contestation, or a playground for the imagination, pop culture will remain at the heart of our collective journey. The journey from the early days of radio and film to the digital age has been marked by both continuity and change. The tools and platforms have evolved, but the fundamental dynamics, creation, dissemination, adaptation, remain. Each generation reinvents pop culture in its own image, drawing on the past while reaching for the future. The symbols and stories that captivate us today may seem ephemeral, but they are part of a long tradition of human creativity and connection. It is tempting to see pop culture as a reflection of society, but it is also an active force, shaping attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. The relationship between culture and society is dynamic and reciprocal. Pop culture both responds to and drives social change, offering new possibilities for identity, community, and meaning. In this sense, the evolution of pop culture is not just a chronicle of changing tastes and technologies, but a map of the collective psyche. In the early 20th century, few could have predicted the global reach and influence that pop culture would attain. What began as local amusements and mass entertainments has become a complex, multi-layered phenomenon that touches every aspect of daily life. From the way we dress to the language we use, from our dreams of the future to our understanding of the past, pop culture is woven into the fabric of existence. The story of pop culture is also a story of power. Who gets to create, distribute, and define culture? Whose voices are heard, and whose are marginalized? As pop culture has evolved, so too have the struggles over representation, inclusion, and agency. The battles over diversity in Hollywood, the debates about free speech and censorship on social media, and the controversies over cultural appropriation are all part of the ongoing negotiation of meaning and value. At its best, pop culture is a source of joy, creativity, and connection. It brings people together, sparks the imagination, and offers new ways of seeing and being. At its worst, it can be shallow, manipulative, and exclusionary. The challenge is to engage with pop culture critically and creatively, recognizing its potentials and pitfalls. The evolution of pop culture is a testament to the power of human imagination. It is a living archive of dreams, desires, fears, and aspirations. Each new technology, trend, or movement adds a new layer to the ongoing conversation, inviting us to participate, reflect, and create. In a world that is often fragmented and uncertain, pop culture offers a common language, a set of symbols, stories, and rituals that help us navigate the chaos of existence. As we move further into the 21st century, the boundaries between pop culture and daily life will continue to blur. The integration of digital media into every aspect of existence, the rise of virtual and augmented realities, and the ongoing transformation of identity and community will create new challenges and opportunities. The evolution of pop culture is far from over. Indeed, it may be only just beginning. To understand the present and imagine the future, we must pay attention to the flows of pop culture. It is in the memes, the music, the movies, and the myriad forms of expression that we find the pulse of the age. Pop culture is not just entertainment, it is a vital force, a mirror of human hopes and fears, and a testament to our collective imagination, shaping and reflecting the world in which we live. The journey from jazz to hip-hop, from silent films to streaming, from fanzines to social media, is a journey of innovation, adaptation, and transformation. Pop culture is a living, breathing phenomenon, constantly reinventing itself in response to new challenges and possibilities. It is a space where the sacred and the profane, the personal and the collective, the real and the imagined, come together in endless play. In tracing the evolution of pop culture from the 20th century to the present, we see a story of emancipation and entanglement, of creation and commodification, of unity and fragmentation. It is a story that mirrors the complexities and contradictions of modern life. Above all, it is a story that invites us to participate, to create, to critique, and to imagine new possibilities. Whether as a tool for chaos magic or a mirror of collective consciousness, pop culture remains one of the most dynamic and influential forces in contemporary life. Its evolution is a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the endless possibilities of the imagination. In the chaos of the present, pop culture offers both a refuge and a challenge, a space to dream, to play, and to shape the world anew. Chapter 3: Magic in Modern Contexts. Magic in Modern Contexts. As the world has spun forward into the 21st century, the landscape of culture, technology, and communication has shifted dramatically. You have been listening to an extended preview of Pop Culture and Chaos Magick. To continue reading, visit the LLH Media Store or the book's Amazon listing.